Call the Public Works Committee meeting to order Thursday, May 30th, 2019. Roll call, Madam Secretary.
Yes, sir. Mr. Abshire?
Here.
Mr. Injapon?
Here.
Mr. Bears was unable to attend this evening. He's stuck in traffic. Mr. Brame?
Here.
Mr. Collins?
Here.
Mr. Farnham?
Here.
Mr. Guidry?
Here.
Mr. Guillory?
Here.
Mr. Landry?
Here.
Mr. Latour?
Here.
Vice Chairman Mayo? Mr. Scott?
Here.
Mrs. Trimmy was unable to attend. President White?
Here.
And Chairman McMillan.
Here.
You do have a quorum.
Thank you. Item 2, presentation retirement certificate to Mr. Franklin L. Jones for 18 plus years of dedicated service to the citizens of Calcasieu Parish. Ms. Shampo.
Good evening.
Good evening.
It's my pleasure to say a few words about Frank here. Frank Jones has worked at the Public Works West Maintenance Facility since November of 2000. He has always been very dependable, always reporting to work early. When he planned any time off, he requested approval at least a week ahead of time. You guys don't know our world, but that's novel. It doesn't happen every day. Officially, Frank's job was to assist with the daily upkeep of the facility and grounds. Unofficially, he was our historian. If there was ever a question about when something had happened, Frank could tell you the date and sometimes the time of day that it had occurred. He could tell you nearly anyone's birthday. His memory for dates is nothing short of amazing. For me personally, he never failed to bring a smile to my face. I could always count on him to keep conversations lively and keep us on our toes. For if there was a question to be asked, Frank would voice it for the group. So with that all said, we would like to present this plaque to Frank and express our sincere good wishes to him in his retirement. Congratulations.
Frank, would you like to say a few words for us? Maybe give us a little recap of the last 18 years?
Well, yeah, I've got a little recap. It started back in November 2000, like Miss Teresa said, and roughly about 2.5 years later, Darren, come be with me a minute. Darren was with me. Darren wasn't there, but he was one of the ones that come to my rescue in March of 2003 when I had that major wreck about a mile from the office. I said just about everybody, and even one of the men that isn't here today, he's a retired foreman, said, I heard it through the grapevine, but I didn't hear it personally from him. I heard it through the grapevine that he said, if y'all go and help Frank, you will be docked for every minute you are up there. I want to thank everybody for the last 18 years. I'm sorry my police York, our police York, couldn't be here today to see me retire. But I'm going to enjoy my retirement, y'all guys.
Thank you, Frank. Thank you for your kind words. Appreciate it. Of course, I'd like to just say with Darren White in the house, all our West Side jurors know what a great asset he is to this parish. Darren, I know our jurors would like to give you a hand for the hard work you do making us look good on the West Side every day. Thank you, Darren. Item 3, the appearance of Ms. Javon Muhammad, Southwest SWLA Center for Health Services with reference to the Juneteenth Freedom Festival on June 13th through 19th, 2019. Welcome. Very glad to have you. If you wouldn't mind, say your name and address for the record.
My name and address?
Yes.
Home address?
Just address. Yes. Name and address. We do it to everybody that goes that mic.
My name is Javon Muhammad, and my address is 2000 Opelousas Street, Lake Charles, Louisiana 70601.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And thank you for the opportunity to present to you all tonight and to introduce you, some of you, and reintroduce some of you to SWLA Center for Health Services, and then talk to you a little bit about a celebration that we'll be having, the 7-day Juneteenth celebration. So we have a quick presentation by PowerPoint. SWLA was founded by Milton Beller and by Judge Ulysses Jean Thibodeau back in 1978. At that time, it was called Bayou Comprehensive. And in 1981, we moved over to, we started a full clinic and moved into our site. We are in North Lake Charles on Opelousas, and we take care of all people, but mainly low-income people. Over 98% of our people, our patients, are low income, and we do that with respect and dignity. We have over 170 personnel at our clinics, and we serve over 25,000 patients, giving them over 90,000 visits. Again, in 1981, we opened the Lake Charles site. We have 4 sites, so our sites include Lake Charles, Lafayette, Oberlin, and Crowley, and soon we hope to be moving to Welsh. We provide primary medical, dental, and mental health services. Those also include opioid services to address the opioid crises that's happening throughout the United States. And most of our patients are insured through the Medicaid program, but we do accept all insurances. We serve patients from over 15 parishes in 4 regions, so we serve about a 200 square mile area. We serve all ages and ethnicities, but 20% of our patients are under 18, 74% are adults, and 6% are elders. We save the state for about 24% when we take care of Medicaid patients, and we have provided in 2017 over 246 jobs. So we're considered to be a federally qualified health center, and federally qualified health centers act as anchors in communities. So we produce many jobs for the community. We also buy things from community businesses. So we tend to bring great economic benefit to communities when we come. We do a lot of community outreach, advocacy. We have a scholarship program, and we have a full gym. So if you're not a member of our gym, we encourage you all to come to our gym. You don't have to live in North Lake Charles to become a member of our gym, and we really need the support as we try to expand our services to take care of all residents of Lake Charles. Soon, we'll be hosting a 7-day Juneteenth celebration. So Juneteenth is the celebration of the last of the chattel slavery, the last of people who were enslaved by chattel slavery being notified that they were free, and that happened in Galveston, Texas. And so since that time in 1865, there have been celebrations throughout the nation. And this year, SWLA will hold a 7-day Juneteenth celebration. And for 7 straight days, we will have activities all day and night that educate our community and celebrate our culture. And so that's what we're here today to do, is to ask for all of your support as we embark on the 7 days of Juneteenth. Everyone is invited. You don't have to be Black to come to the celebration. Just come. You don't even have to ask. But if you would play the video.
SWLA Center for Health Services presents the 7-day Juneteenth Freedom Festival, June 13th through 19th, 2019. Join us for 7 days of epic celebration, opening with an amazing awards dinner and ending with fireworks for the first time in celebration of freedom during June. For complete details, visit www.7dayfreedomfest.com or simply give us a call at 337-312-2014. Don't miss the 2019 Juneteenth Freedom Festival.
So again, it'll be 7 days of action. On Thursday, we'll open our ceremonies with the Black Excellence Awards. That'll be at the Magnolia House. On Friday, we'll support the Kiwanis in their activity, the Jam in June, which is also a Juneteenth celebration. And then after that, we will be at Boute's for a juke joint. Juke joints have a significant role in Black rural culture and history, and so we plan to celebrate that. On Saturday, we'll be providing up to 125 dental visits for uninsured and underinsured residents of Lake Charles. At the same time, we'll be having a Freedom Festival, kind of like a block party at the clinic, and that night we'll have a cotton club at Zephyrs, which is downtown. On Sunday, we'll celebrate Father's Day. We're having a Father's Day Family Festival, and at 4 o'clock, we're having a Unity bike ride. That'll be at McMillan Park. Earlier today, I heard it was also known as Sunrise Park, maybe? So at 4 o'clock, if you want, you can bring your bikes and join the Unity ride. That evening, we'll have a panel discussion at SWLA. And then on Monday and Tuesday, we'll be having Black Women's and Black Men's Health Day. Lots of activities happening. Wednesday is the closing ceremony, and the finale will be a full fireworks ceremony. And so we hope to see you there. Thank you.
We have some jurors that have some comments or questions for you. I want to say welcome to Southwest Louisiana. Where are you from originally?
San Francisco,
We're
California.
glad to have you here. You're going to
Thank
fall
you.
in love with us, and you made a good hire in Patricia. She works very hard in the community, and I know she's going to be your right arm there. So, Patricia Prudham out there in the audience. With that being said, Mr. Gilry.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to say to the fellow jurors that if you've never been over there, that you should come. They service a lot of people from the morning until the evening. They are full every day, and it's a great place. And Ms. Javon, I just want to thank you for doing a great job out there also.
Thank you.
Mr. Guidry.
Thank you, Mr. McMillan. I had an aunt that worked there when Mr. Gene Thibodeau actually helped find this organization, and she was there for like, I want to say right at 13, 14 years. But the one thing that I found that was mostly unique, that the people there genuinely cared for the people in that area, because they didn't have the means to go to an emergency room or to an urgent care, but you guys was there to help them, and you guys helped them before things got really bad, could help them in situations to where they needed the medical attention that was needed. And I just applaud you guys for what you're doing, and anything that we can do to continue the success that you guys are having out there, please, by all means, we want you to come back and visit with us, okay?
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Any other jurors? Thank you very much for being here. We truly appreciate your presentation.
Thank you. I'm going to leave that.
Item 4, consideration of adopting a resolution
item four,
approving the
both
following
bullets.
items related to LA 3092 Lake Street at Ham Reed Road project. Bullets A and B. Bullet A is an active sale agreement, and bullet B is temporary servitude right-of-way and use agreements. I have a motion by Mr. Scott and a second by Mr. Gilry. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, item 4 and both bullets pass. Item 5, consideration of resolution approving the amendment, professional engineering contract
Move to
of
adopt.
Finstamaker and Associates for Ham Reed Road Extension Project. I have a motion by Mr. Brame and a second by Mr. Scott. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, that motion carries. Item 6, consideration of adopting a resolution approving a temporary servitude agreement for the Carlos Drive widening project. I have a motion by Mr. Fornum and a second by Mr. Brame. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, that motion carries. Item 7, consideration of adopting a resolution of temporary servitude agreement for the Johnny Bro Road Extension Project. I have a motion by Mr. Fornum and a second by Mr. Latour. Any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, item 7 carries. Item 8, consideration adopting a resolution approving temporary servitude agreements for the North Frontage Road project. I have a motion by Mr. Anderpont and a second by Mr. Farnham. Any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, that motion carries. Item 9, consideration of making a recommendation for adopting a resolution approving the sale and purchase of property agreements for the North Perkins Ferry Road Bridge Replacement Project. I have a motion by President White and a second by Mr. Latour. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Item 9 carries. Item 10, consideration adopting a resolution approving professional engineering service contract for the Sarah Street Bridge Replacement Project. I got a motion by Mr. Anderpont and a second by Mr. Brain. Any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, item 10 carries. Item 11, consideration of adopting a resolution approving active sale agreements for the Niblets Bluff Road Bridge Replacement and Realignment Project. I have a motion by Mr. Fornum and a second by Mr. Latour. Any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, that item carries. Item 12, consideration of adopting a resolution approving expropriation of property for the Niblets Bluff Road Bridge Replacement and Realignment Project. I have a motion by Mr. Fornum and a second by Mr. Latour on item 12. Any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, that motion carries. Item 13, consideration of adopting a resolution approving an amendment for the professional service contract for the Niblets Bluff Road and Replacement and Realignment Project. I have a motion by Mr. Fornum and a second by Mr. Latour on item 13. Any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, that motion carries. Item 14,
Move on 14.
Second.
consideration of adopting a resolution to name the unnamed public road right-of-way located off Gulf Highway in Ward 3 to East Fred Vale Road. I have a motion by Mr. Landry and a second by Mr. Guidry. Any discussion? Any objection? Item 14 carries. Item 15.
Move on 15.
Consideration of authorizing the parish purchasing agent to advertise for requests for proposals for an elevated potable water storage tank improvement project. I have a motion by Mr. Collins and a second by Mr. Abshire. Any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, item 15 carries. Item 16, consideration of adopting a resolution accepting Calcasieu Parish Road Project 2018-02 overlaying of various roads in Ward 4 as substantially complete. I have a motion by Mr. Abshire and a second by Mr. Latour on item 16. Any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none. Item 16 carries. Item 17.
Move to adjourn.
Item 17, any considerations on any other things to be brought up? Item 18, got a motion by Mr. Landry and a second by Ms. Mayo to adjourn. We stand adjourned. Let's see, wait, got to change to.
The purpose of today's committee meeting is to formulate an agenda for the regular meeting of the police jury on June 6, 2019. I need a motion and a second to pull item 15. I have a motion by Mr. Landry and a second by Mr. Collins to pull item 15. Item 15, take appropriate actions on the terms of the following members of various boards and districts. A, Recreation District Number 1 of Ward 4, Miss Missy Conrad. Sorton.
Conrad. Move to reappoint Missy Sorton Conrad.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. McMillan and a second by Mr. Fornum to reappoint Miss Conrad. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, that motion will carry. B,
I'd like to defer for 30 days. Second.
Highway Fire Protection District Number 1 of Ward 8. I have a motion by Mr. Latour and a second by Mr. Collins to defer for 30 days. Any discussion? Any objection? We do have discussion. President White.
Can you read the name into the record, please?
That would be Miss Sally E. Meir.
Good job.
President White, you know I'm not the one. I know, you know, Mr. McMillan is pinching me in my side, but I'm gonna go ahead and deal with it, okay? Because it's all about that. C, Waterworks District Number 1 of Ward 1. Mr. White? You wanna go ahead and appoint
Yes, appoint Mr. Joshua Thomas, please.
Okay, I have a motion by
Second.
President White
Second.
and a second by Mr. McMillan to appoint Mr. Josh Thomas. Any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, that item will pass. D, Waterworks District Number 8 of Ward
Reappoint
3
Mr.
and
Ricky
8.
Batchelor. Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Latour and a second by Mr. Abshire
Okay.
to appoint,
Reappoint.
reappoint. Which person was it?
Ricky Batchelor.
Mr. Ricky Batchelor? Mr. Ricky Batchelor. Any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, that item will pass. E, Waterworks District Number 11 of Ward 4 and 7.
Move to appoint Mr. David Neesat to replace Mrs. Neighbor Martin.
I have a motion by Mr. Andrepont and a second by Mr. Fornham to appoint Mr. David Neesat. Any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, that item will pass. F, Waterworks Workforce Development Board, number 1, Ms. Tracy Fontenot.
I'd like to defer for 30 days.
Second.
Are we going to take them all, or are we going to take them individually?
One at a time.
Okay, one at a time. Ms. Tracy Fontenot, Mr. Latour, motion, and second by Ms. Shayla Mayo that we would defer that for 30 days. B, any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, that item will pass. B, Dr. Neil
Reappoint.
Aspinwall.
Mr. Neal, reappoint. Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Latour and a second by Mr. Abshire to reappoint Dr. Neil Aspinwall. Any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, that item will pass. C, Mr. Richard
I'd like to
Polk.
reappoint Mr. Richard.
I have a motion by Mr. Latour and a second by Ms. Mayo to reappoint Mr. Richard Polk. Polk. Any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, that item will pass. D,
I'd like to
Ms.
defer for
Carol
30
Thibodeau.
days. Defer
I
for
have a
30
motion
days.
by Mr. Latour and a second by Mr. Guillory to defer for 30 days. Any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, that item will pass. E,
I'd like to
Ms.
reappoint
Warner
Ms.
Felton.
Reappoint.
I have a motion by Mr. Latour and a second by Ms. Mayo to reappoint Ms. Warner Felton. Any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, that item will pass. Number 2, Mr. Toby Leger.
I'd like to appoint Mr. Boyd Welch.
I have a motion by Mr.
Second.
Latour and a second by Mr. McMillan to reappoint Mr. Boyd Michael Welch. To appoint Mr. Boyd Michael Welch. Any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, that item will pass. B, Mr. Richard B. Smith.
I'd like to reappoint Mr. Orby Smith. Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Latour and a second by Mr. Abshire to appoint Mr. Smith. Any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, that item will pass. Item C, Ms. Cassie
Reappoint
Henry.
Ms. Henry.
I have a motion by Mr. Latour and a second by Ms. Mayo to reappoint Ms. Cassie Henry. Any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, that item will pass. Item D, Ms.
Reappoint Ms. Breland.
Ms. Janice Breland. I have a motion by Mr. Latour and a second by Ms. Mayo to reappoint Ms. Janice Breland. Any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, that item will pass. Last item, E,
I'd like to
Mr.
defer
Keith
for 30 days.
Cooley.
Defer for 30.
I have a motion by Mr. Latour and a second by Mr. Landry to defer for 30 days. Any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, that item will pass. Mr. McMillan asks for a point of personal privilege. Mr. McMillan. Okay, I didn't want to leave you out. I just wanted to make sure that I kept you in the loop, Mr. McMillan. At this time, I'd ask for a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
I have a motion by Mr. Abshire and a second by Mr. Guillory. We're now adjourned.